Hello, and welcome to the first of several presentations about conflicts of interest. I'm your host, Erin Auger, and this series is brought to you by the USDA Office of Ethics, where we're happy to answer all of your questions at the end of this presentation. Today we'll discuss how to identify a conflict of interest, what to do when you think you might have one, and ways supervisors and managers can mitigate the risk of conflicts of interest in their programs. Let's start by looking at the Conflicts of Interest Statute, 18 U.S.C. 208. This statute lays out the basic concept of a conflict of interest, who needs to be concerned about it, and where it might occur. You should be aware that violating this statute bears significant criminal penalties. Here's where the statute is implemented. For now, though, let's just focus on what 18 U.S.C. 208 has to say about conflicts of interest. We'll discuss the regulation in a future video. This is what the statute states, but I'm not going to read it to you because I'd run out of breath. So let me just show it to you here on the screen. Let me see if I can't make this simpler without all of the legalese. The first part talks about who is subject to 208. For USDA, that means all employees, even special government employees. The next part talks about actions. It says participates personally and substantially. This is critical because now we know what we should not do when we have a financial interest in a matter. We should not participate personally and substantially. This should alert you about what you need to do when there is a conflict of interest. We'll briefly talk about that at the end. So to define participate personally and substantially, the statute says, decision, approval, disapproval, recommendation, the rendering of advice, investigation, or otherwise. That's a broad category of things you could do. But purely administrative duties like scheduling conference rooms or making copies don't count. Now that we've defined participation, you may be wondering what kinds of things you can't participate in. The statute is helpful here too. It tells us we can't participate in these kinds of matters. It also includes things like making regulations or rulemaking. So, for example, you're participating personally and substantially if you advise your supervisor on a contract. Now we get to the financial interest part. You have a financial interest in a matter if your official participation could cause the value of one or more of your own financial holdings to go up or down. This is the crux of understanding a conflict of interest. There has to be a link between your government work and your financial assets for you to have a financial interest and thus a potential conflict of interest. And it's not just your own personal financial holdings that are counted here. The statute assigns the interests of others to you. That means that their holdings are treated as if they were your own. The list of these people include your spouse, minor children, and a general partner. So if there is a link between your work and a financial holding belonging to your minor child, then you have a financial interest in the matter. That's not all. Any organization where you serve as an officer, director, trustee, general partner, or employee also will have its holding linked to you. So a good rule of thumb is to consider if you have some sort of fiduciary responsibility to that organization. If you do, you're likely subject to 208. This can make things tricky if you have a second job, because that outside company's entire set of holdings is now treated as if they were yours. The last group whose holdings are linked to you is any entity with which you are negotiating for future employment. Like the last example, the entirety of that entity's holdings are linked to you. To summarize in plain language, you cannot work on matters in which you or those whose interests are linked to you have a financial interest. The idea is to prevent people from using their government jobs to enrich themselves and others. So what should you do if you see a possible connection between your duties and your financial holdings? Stop and call the Office of Ethics. Our ethics advisors specialize in the conflicts of interest law and other ethics laws. Just do not participate into the matter until we've had a chance to advise you about it. Stay tuned for more interesting and relevant USDA ethics training in the near future. In the meantime, have a great and productive day.